Hello, everybody. Here is Marjolein Elings speaking from the Netherlands. Thanks for having me here at the conference. It's a bit silly because I'm actually now talking to my laptop without any audience, so it feels a bit awkward actually. But I hope it will work. Maybe it's good to introduce myself. Maybe also Irving did that, but my name is Marjolein Elings. I'm a researcher green care at Wageningen University and Research. And I would like to tell you today something about the development of the social farming sector in the Netherlands over the last 20 years. And I will do that in around 50 minutes. But before I will start, I will try to share my screen so I can show you my presentation. And I hope this will work. Let me see. Yes, I see my presentation, so hopefully you do too. So what I like to tell about the social farming sector in the Netherlands is that it's a growing sector. And I think if you look back the last 20 years, we see that this sector grow quite rapidly. So in 1998, there were 75 care farms, while there are 1,300 now at the moment. And there are also 35 clients coming to the farm every year. So that this is quite an increase of the number of participants coming. And what we see the last couple of years is that also the diversity of client groups coming to the farm increased. So at first, it were mostly people with learning difficulties coming to the farm. But nowadays, it's a variety of client groups, from people with mental ill health till people with a history in addiction, people that are recovering from a burnout, to elderly with dementia. And we see actually with that the diversity of groups coming to the farm, that also the forms of care that is provided by farmers is also changing. So at first it was often that people come to the farm to have a useful day activity. But nowadays also care farms offer crisis care, for instance, for children that need to be kind of having a kind of a time out on a farm. We also see job rehabilitation on farms, and we also even see education at the moment. So also with the variety of client groups, also the forms of care that is provided by care farms in the Netherlands changed. So, and if we look back actually to the last 20 years, I think for you in Northern Ireland, it's good to know that we also started, 20 years ago with actually some pioneers. In the 1990s, there was the pioneers were kind of isolated initiatives. There was not there was a lack of legitimacy and also no financing. So that was actually, I think, 20 years ago. And then what we saw is at that moment, there was a kind of momentum, because we saw that the concept of care farms were in line with the objectives of both Ministries of Agriculture and Healthcare. Like the Ministry of Agriculture would like to have agriculture more in connection with society, and the Ministry of Healthcare really would like to have care more in society, so that people with a disability were not kind of like in former days put in institutions in far away from society, but really care in society. And both ministries saw that what happened on a care farm really fitted with their views of how the future could be. And at that moment, both ministries supported a national support center that started in 1999. And the National Support Center for Agriculture and Care, they actually worked on a network. They made a database in which everybody could see where different care farms are. If you were looking for a care farm or a specific one, you could look in their database. And they also built a quality system. And then actually one of the other key milestones in the development of the social farming sector in the Netherlands was in 2003. Clients could have the opportunity to have their personal budgets. And that causes that participants could choose their own care. So they could say, well, I would like to have the activity, and I see in my neighborhood there's a nice care farm. I go there. So that made it easier for clients to choose to go to the care farm actually. And then also in 2005, there was again a kind of liberalization of the long-term healthcare system in the Netherlands. And that also causes that care farms could also have their own accreditation of healthcare. So they could have a direct contract with the municipality or the government. And that made it easier for farmers to have a contract with municipalities and governments. At the end, the finances of the Ministries of Agriculture and Healthcare stopped, but in 2010, the National Support Center got a kind of restart, and the care farmers in the Netherlands started their National Federation of Care Farmers. And well, we still have this federation, of course. And what we also see is that in the specific regions of the Netherlands, every region has their own collaboration of care farmers. And they all often work together, for instance, in kind of administrative tasks, also in lobbying with municipalities. And in that way, they it makes it easier for them to have contracts with municipalities, but also for the participants, it's nice because they can choose. There's often a kind of central bureau, and people can come there and say, I'm looking for a care farm, and then they search for the right one. So I think also for participants, it's very nice that there are different regional corporations. And what we see with those regional collaboration also corporations, we also see that one of the key milestones or successes of the social farming sector in the Netherlands is also that the care farmers are really entrepreneurial. So, for instance, what we see the last, I think, couple of 3 years, that there are at this moment also some 50 so-called education care farms. And those care farms are actually different than the regular care farms because they offer educational services for children that dropped out of school. So they are actually kind of, school or having school services on their farm. And with this, you see that care farms are very, good social entrepreneurs because they see what the sector is needing and anticipate on that. Let me see. I think this is also kind of, this is a kind of same what I told in the last slides. So, and I think one of the other key success factors is that if I look back to the development of the social farming sector in the Netherlands, is that often the Federation of Care Farmers work together with us as researchers also to show municipalities or healthcare insurance companies or participants what they do and also what kind of effects working on the farms has on different participants. So what we did is that there were a couple of so-called effect studies for different target groups. So we looked, for instance, at the effects of working on care farms for elderly with dementia, youngsters with behavioral problems, and also people with mental ill health and addiction history. And we found different effects on different kind of, yeah, on different aspects. Like we looked at physical well-being, mental well-being, social well-being, and spiritual well-being. And for instance, if we look at physical well-being, we see, for instance, from the effect study of my colleague Simone de Bruin, she did with elderly with dementia, is that we see that there is a significant better intake of food and drinks for elderly that are working on care farms in comparison with elderly working on regular daycare facilities. And especially for this target group, elderly with dementia, it's very important that they don't lose weight, because that's often a kind of side effect of having dementia. So that's a very positive effect. And what we also see with the other target groups is that going to the farm helps people to get emotion again, gives them structure and rhythm. People are getting physically stronger. They use their senses more. They also learn to balance their energy, not to go into fast and do everything at once, but to take it step by step. People also tell us that they're getting tired, and then really another different kind of tired than just sitting from, behind your television on the couch. They sleep better, and they also feel their body because they really do something physically. And one of the participants, or one of the social farmers, told us, we used to live much more with the seasons. Now summers are as long as winters because you can turn on the lights and the stove at home. And with that, you miss the rhythm of the seasons as you retreat in winter. Working on the farm gets people back into their rhythms. Well, and if we look at the mental well-being, also we see that people having an aim for the day, that their self-confidence and self-respect are increasing a lot. And especially if I look at my effect study for people with recovering from alcohol and drug addiction, we see that self-respect, especially for this target group, is very important. Because they say often they are really looked by society as not so positively. They don't have a kind of positive image of themselves, and they are very surprised that the farmers open their gates for them to just come on their farm, and their self-respect really grow on that point. We also see an increased commitment and responsibility. And we also see that working on a farm and working with nature and working with plants and animals also gives an increase in self-reflection and learning. And one of the participants told self-esteem and self-confidence that has increased tremendously for me. You have the opportunity to make a success of things here. You grow from that. And I also noticed something like that in my environment, which reacts very differently to me than when I came out of the clinic. That's because of more self-confidence. And before, I felt like I was walking with a sign around my neck saying junk. And one of the social farmers said, to learn to enjoy small things. People are used to thinking big. If I have a lot of money, then they don't dwell on the fact that small things can also bring joy, like birds nesting here at the farm. Well, and then if we look at social well-being, we see that people's social contact increase because they learn new people on the farm. We see that there's an opportunity to practice social interaction. People learn more to keep to their appointments, and also they see that others respect them. The respect of others is differently. And it has to do with the farmer that opens their gate for them or their farm. It has to do with just saying, I'm going to, if you're on a birthday party, everybody always asks, what do you do? And people can say, I'm working on a farm. And that gives really, it's somehow differently. For instance, one of the social farmers said they can rearrange their lives a little bit. They can say, I have to go to work tomorrow, so I can't meet up. They don't get clean from that, but it does give them structure and a certain status that they go to work and that this is what the boss requires. And one of the social farmers said, the children who come here have always struggled at school, struggled to make relationships. And if they then have a place where they can go and do things together, that is very important. Or one of the social farmers said, I asked them, if you would make a picture, what kind of picture would you make of the kind of positive effects of the care farm? And then she told me, I would make a picture of a group portrait of diversity here on the farm. I love that. From highly educated to less educated, from religious to non-religious, and each person brings a story. And together you could write books of what you experience. You experience a lot together, and that's because both nature and people have a certain dynamics. Well, and last, there are also effects on the spiritual being for people, and that has all to do about wonder and fascination, about experiencing nature, experiencing seasons, and also feeling part of a bigger picture. And I think these two quotes, I think, will explain the best. To see the small beauties in nature, for instance, a beautiful bird, and to name that too, even though the world is very dark at the moment, that people can still wonder. Or the contact with nature and what effect that has on your worldview, that you have to take care of nature and that it is nice there. You lay a foundation for that. And we also do nature and environmental education here, and you do create ownership with that. Well, and at last, if you look at all the research we have done and combine all those studies, we see that the social farm has a kind of 4 key elements, and that is the engagement of farmer and supervisor, the social community, and the useful and diverse activities, and a green environment. And those 4 main qualities causes that the care farm is something really different from what normal care institutions do, so that it gives participants an informal non-care context that is different than from what they used to have. And I think if I look at the time, I think I will leave it with this. And of course, you are very welcome to, well, Ilbeen will probably share my presentation. But if you would like to know more about our research and also about development of the social farming sector in the Netherlands, you could scan the QR code and you will come to a report that gives a kind of summary of it all. And if you have specific questions on certain topics, you can of course contact me. And I would like also to raise your attention to 2 projects we are involved, and next to myself, also my Irish colleagues. I think Helen Dorothy is there too today. And that is the So Far Team project, in which we are developing training materials for future social farmers, and also the Green for Sea project. So if you would like to know more, you could visit those websites. Well, and with this, I would like to end my presentation. It felt a bit strange talking, not for a kind of audience, but I wish you from the Netherlands a very pleasant day, an inspiring day, and I hope to meet you in person in the future. Thank you for your attention, and thanks for having me. Okay, bye.